How's everyone doing today? Today on the 4x4 Fab Shop, we're going to convert our bender from a manual to a air over hydraulic ram. We're going to take this Woodward manual tube bender and we're going to show you how to weld up this swag hydraulic cylinder mount. Alright, it utilizes this air over hydraulic cylinder you just buy from Harbor Freight. There's probably others you can get it from as well. And it gets rid of the manual handle on this Woodward tube bender, and it also works for the JD2, the ProTools. It'll work on all those. You just let them know which kit you're looking for. And this one was built specifically for the cylinder. It's on wheels. That way I don't have to drill into the floor, and I also don't want to have to keep cranking on this handle. Alright, so let's dive into this weld up. If you have any comments or anything, leave them below. I always answer them. Alright, so we finally got our bracket for our cylinder for our bender. So we got to go through these, and looks like it should be a fairly simple assembly. Okay, so this should be the handle for the cylinder. We're going to put that on. This one's going to go here. That's what the instructions say. Bushings for the pivot. We're just going to give this a quick check on the bender just to make sure that everything fits before we weld it up. So, we have the Woodward Fab set up. Now, I've found these settings to be pretty good. So I'm going to just tack the parts with a TIG torch. Right. Remember, this is 1/4 inch material. So let's just try something. Let's go in here, and I've got 1/4 inch material. Right, so that's for the steel. I want to go for the MIG. Oh, that's aluminum. MIG steel right there. C120. This is okay. So now I'll go up to the MIG steel C25. If I go into smart settings, I've got 35 thou wire, 1/4 inch material. Now I know this machine, it welds hot. So we're going to go down to the low end of that. Let's see how it works. Okay, I'm pretty happy with those welds. Kind of pleased with those. So now we need to weld up the clamp. Alright, so I'm going to use a 1-2-3 block to get the first ear set. I'll get a clamp over this. So I know that it's square there. Okay, so what we'll do to get it square, I'm going to use a little parallel. Then I'll come off this edge. You can see how out of square that is. So it just square it up. First couple tacks along here on both sides. Then we'll put the tube in and then tack the other side in. I'm just going to come in and make sure this surface is somewhat flat. So when I set a 1, 2, 3 block on it, okay, so I'm just going to make this tube just short, that way I can still line up on it. Okay, so that'll hold that straight. The tube should help it a little bit, but now we gotta line it up. Just like we did on the other one. Parallel, I'm gonna use a little toolmaker square. And we can see how far out it is. And then I'm going to try to get a clamp over this. Okay, so I'm going to check it again using a parallel and a little square. It's come out just a little bit. Snug up. Tube should be fairly loose, and it is. The tube's going to kind of dictate where it's at forward and back. So as long as I can take this and the tube moves fairly free, that's what I'm after more than anything. At least I know the holes are lined up. I know they're square to the frame. So now we'll tack this thing in place. And the reason why I'm using a TIG to tack it, because it's a much smaller tack than if I were to go in with the MIG and not put a big lump in the weld. Okay, so everything's tacked. And for me, the biggest point of the tacks is just to make sure it's where I want. And at these tubes, that lines up pretty well now. Okay, so I got to weld these ears in. I got to check. I think I got to weld that too. Yeah, so these all get welded. Then I eventually got to get a bead on the inside. So we'll put that in after I've got these all welded, and then we'll weld this in there. Okay, I could probably run these all in one pass, but just to try to control this thing to pull, I'm going to run up a little bit, I'm going to run on the other side a little bit, then I'll make the other two connections. Okay, so it still lines up good. slide this in, which is a good sign. I'm gonna let this cool off a little bit. We'll get it centered and we'll get it tacked. Looks like 5/16 is a magic number. 5/16. 5/16. I'm gonna throw a couple tacks on it and then weld it in place. Alright, in order to put this mount on, we got to take off all the manual stuff. And a lot of this comes off easy because we never really use it in the manual setup. We bought it with the intention of putting the cylinder on it. That's 1 1/16. I'm just going to put a clamp on it so that it isn't leaning forward so bad. And you could do this all on the bench just as well. So remember, there's these two bronze bushings here. That'll take the place of that one bolt and the spacer. Now we'll snug up the front one first. And those are lock nuts on the bottom of it. So I'm going to snug it. Then we do the same for the back. If you have an 1 1/16 socket, it would make this a lot easier. Making it tight enough so that it can move, but not so tight that it, because there's not a tube in the middle of this to squeeze against. You're actually squeezing against the bracket. Now the cylinder itself, you got to remove this pin that you would put the handle into. We're going to knock this pin out so that we can put the handle on it that they provide you. That way you're not always using the handle. And it looks like there's some burrs on the very top of this. So I'm just going to file this burr off. It's like where they poke through with the drill. You don't gotta go crazy with it, just knock that burr off. If you got some kind of drift pin, or something works out really nice. So you're just going to drive it so that it's at least through. Alright, so when you put the clamp on, it just passes through. It's got these profiles you're going to bear against as you bolt up to the cylinder. Put our washers and our lock nuts on. It's a very well made kit. You can tell they put a lot of time and engineering on this thing. And on the front, they give you this tube that'll slide into the ram. And there's a collar here that'll go on to try to keep it from sagging. Right. So what you do is you'll just position this. You might have to loosen up. You've already got it together. Might have to loosen some bolts up, but slide that in. That'll slide through. Your nut and washer's on the back side. So we're going to bend past a couple degrees. So it's only a degree off. So it tells me next time, don't go to full 2 degrees, only go 1. So this was a spin-off of Jeeping Mo. It's strictly fab work. We're still going to do some fab work on Jeeping Mo channel. But 4x4 Fab Shop is strictly going to be fab work. Alright, so if you enjoy this type of stuff, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Being a new channel, we're going to need all the views we can because, well, it's brand new. This is the first video. So until then, we'll see you in the garage next time. Until then, this is 4x4 Fab Shop.